And I apologize for interrupting the conversation. If you would like to speak, I already taken the thing. Okay. We have room. I'll move down.
All right. Yeah, just quick. This is gonna be our first one.
So you can really, that's not becoming Austin.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
This was added.
I'm sorry, we're just waiting for Dana. Just be a minute.
Yeah, it feels nice. I don't know. Oh, yeah, yes.
You bet. Okay, I'm calling to order the city council meeting of April 15th, 2023. So does anyone on the council or on Zoom have a conflict of interest?
No.
Nope. Okay, so I'm going to call for motions to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on March 1st, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
I will give you a motion to approve the minutes from the March 23rd?
No, March 1st.
March 1st meeting, 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March the 1st, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good, thank you. Oh, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting on March 22nd, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting on March 22nd, 2023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and finally, I need approval for the minutes of the work session on March 22nd, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes from the work session on March 22nd, 2023.
You do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the work session on March 22nd, 2023. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, so have you all seen the planning commission report? Do you have any comments or questions?
I do not.
Okay,
I do.
all right, so on to the mayor's report. And although I'm chairing this meeting, I am not the mayor. So Carrie, I know you're having a cold time in Montana. Would you like to say your report?
No, I don't have anything to report at this time. Thank you, though.
You bet. So, Preston, do you have anything to report?
Nope.
Mayor Dan, Councilor Dan, do you have anything to report?
So spent the last month going through budget training, trying to prepare for upcoming budget season. Also had many meetings with private citizens on a variety of issues, and spent many hours working with Mr. Sweet and Sergeant Brown and others on the issue that we have going on down in Glen Avenue. And I guess after today, I just feel it's important to remind everybody that these are human beings. Everybody involved is human beings, and we have to have empathy for everybody involved. There are many different sides of the situation. We have the business owners that are trying to protect their businesses, and that is a very valid concern and something that we need to be empathetic to. We also have some folks down there, a couple of people today that one of them did lose everything that he owns in the world because he was trying to keep warm last night when it was very cold and we were all sleeping in our beds. And another person who almost lost everything, including their pets. So there are many different sides to this equation. And the city, as we have mentioned before, the city is working very hard on this issue. I was a little disheartened after being out there today and seeing the impact of what was going on, and we were working so hard on it as we have been. And Mr. Sweet has been just a rock star on this. There's not a day that goes by that we've not had a discussion. Preston and I have had discussions. We're all very concerned about it. And then I come home and I open up social media and I see people saying that we don't care, that we're not doing anything. And that's couldn't be further from the truth. We all love Gearhart as much as you love Gearhart, and we want Gearhart to continue to be a safe and happy place for us to live. But we also do have to abide by the 4th Amendment, the 8th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. And in order to do that, we have to follow the laws that have been prescribed to us, case laws that have been as recently as last September, that have been implemented. And we're navigating those who have sought professional assistance in that. And we're navigating case law as best we can and as quickly as we can. But I hope that people understand that in at least one of the cases that we are now having to navigate, one of the things that hurt that city and their efforts and ended up creating a bigger problem for the rest of us is that that city had citizens and had council members that went on record publicly saying very vile things about homeless people. And that kind of stuff, if it continues, will hamstring us and it will hurt us. This is not, please, this is not the time for performance politics. As I said, I will have a meeting with anybody who wants to have a meeting with me and tell me how you feel. You can say as many mean things to me as you want. I've got very thick skin. But please be careful what you're saying publicly and think through what you're saying when you say it. Because we are addressing the problem, but we're going to address it humanely and we're going to address it legally. And I'm here because I love Gearhart, but trust me, I did not dream of being a city councilor. I'm here to serve, but I am not here to be another recipient of a 1983 claim with personal punitive damages against me, nor will I allow anybody here to be subject to that. That is my goal. So excuse me for using French, but some of the bullshit that I've seen going on social media needs to stop. Please reach out to me if you need somebody to be a sounding board and to beat up on. I'm here for you, and I would love to hear from you because I do believe that I am not the smartest person in the room, and there might be people that have better ideas than I do. And if you think that we haven't thought of them, please share them with us. But we need to do this privately, because if you had a problem at your house, you would not want us to discuss your problems publicly. So please remember that. And I guess I'm done.
Thank you. And Counselor, I met with Sharon and Dana to review the tree process. I was very surprised by the infrastructure that it will take to be pro-tree, I guess. I thought go out there and dig a hole and plant a tree and that'd be it, but no, there's a lot more. So I met with Sharon and Dana, and then yesterday I met with Chad to go over the agenda and the meeting notes, because I didn't want to screw up, but I know I will. So please, everybody bear with me when I do, and that's it. So now we're off to city officer reports. From the police, Sergeant Brown, would you like to speak, please?
Yes. Quick update on things in the police department. First of all, as I'm sure everybody knows, as of April 1st, Chief Bowman has officially retired at 39 years with the city. Actually, that was not a joke. So I hope we all wish him well to his retirement. Secondly, obviously kind of the biggest issue right now that's going on is the homeless population. And I wanted to know the police department is working with the city councilors and the city administrator. We're working on policy procedures for how to deal with things. We're looking at examples from other cities, other counties, case law, whatever we can get to try to make something workable. As for our interaction with them, of course, Chief Bowman and I were down there every day, and there were some issues that came about because of garbage being left on the city right of ways. In total, in the last month, we issued 38 citations for scattering rubbish. And now I know there are people out there who want more information than that. So what I did was I got in contact with Peter Watt, and what we did this month, and what we continue to do every month, is put the police department's activity log up on the city blog. So there's more information there. Any questions you had, we'll look at what we've been doing. That's not all encompassing. Smaller issues don't go on the log. Like if I pull someone over, just give them a warning, it won't be there. But if I'm issuing citations, taking cases, if there's a disturbance, it'll be on that log. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So fire chief is next.
Thank you very much. For last month, we had a total of 64 calls of service, which was 26 for the city limits and 25 for the district. We sent out aid 13 times. 10 was to Seaside and 3 was to Warrenton. Now it seems like a lot for Seaside, more than normal. 7 of those was because we were covering for Seaside when they had their annual banquet. They covered for us when we have ours, and we covered for them. Just so happens to be that during those 3 hours that we covered for Seaside, they had a lot of calls with that. And the other one was building fire, needing some backup manpower and some water rescues and other ones for that. We went to Warrenton 3 times last month, which were all 4 structured fires with that. We asked for aid once. That was due to the location of our training grounds was a little bit farther outside of our district. We knew we were going to be farther away, so we put Seaside on standby. Todd and I could come in if we had another call. So because we were so far out, we happened to have a call. Seaside and us, we kind of met there at the same time, but they already called and that continued. So whoever got there first, we did best patient care. So the call for that. Just for in comparison, like I said, we had 64 calls last month. Last year for the same month for March 2022, we had 44 calls. We had 20 calls more last month than the year before. February was a good breath of fresh air, like I explained last time. We think we had 24 calls, if I remember right, which almost brought us up to current. Ending March 2022, we ended on call 149, and this year we were on 147. We've almost caught up to our break that we had last month, just with the extra calls we've had from this last year. And unless anybody has any questions of me, that's all I have for my report.
Thank you for your assistance today.
Yes.
And it was a team effort, it wasn't me. The team was on point, they did great.
Not only you, but Sergeant Brown
Yeah.
and Mr. Sweet and Public Works was out there.
Yeah.
And Red Cross came out and we were, I mean, everybody was out there. Everybody came to the alarm. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the press release, that's on the city blog as well as Fire Department's Facebook page.
On your incident report here,
Mhm.
would you put the dates down, please?
They're not on there. We just switched over to a new program, so we've been working and getting the reports to
Oh,
be
I see.
similar and match.
I see where that. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
No problem. If there's anything else, we can work on developing that further and stuff, because we need to work in the process of moving.
We've got a Easter egg.
Thank you very much. Yes. Sorry, I came back from vacation last week. I'm still trying to play catch up with everything. Last year was the first year we did our Easter egg hunt. We're continuing it this year. We on purpose scheduled it the exact same time as Seasides to attempt to have something just for our community here, just like with last year. Last year we had about 900 eggs. This year we have 3,000 eggs that we've gotten with that. So we've got a little bit more. 3,000 free stuff. We didn't have to stuff them, thank goodness. So they're ready to go, and our crew will be out there putting eggs out for a good event for the community this Saturday. And that information is online.
Are these plastic eggs? Or
Yes,
these
sir.
real eggs?
They're plastic.
Oh, I was gonna say the price of eggs. They've been dying them all.
And they've been sitting in the back of the station for a good 3 weeks. So thank you. Yes, that is this Saturday.
Thank you, John.
Of course, thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, Justine, city treasurer report.
Okay, so overall, the general fund revenues continue to meet most of our targets. Marijuana tax was one of the sources that have been under projected. We have a new store and collecting a new local tax that had been going to the state, so we weren't quite sure how much those two stores were going to bring in. So they're a little bit lower than we thought, but still a very strong revenue source. The most significant revenue last month was our Northwest Natural Gas franchise fee payment, which is an annual payment, so we only get one payment for that, and it was a lot stronger than we had anticipated. In expenditures, noteworthy activity includes expenditures for the police chief recruitment, which is in account 10-12-47. This account will be overspent. However, total allocations in the police materials and category, which is how we budget, are anticipated to compensate for the overages. There was a decrease in account 10-13-42. because of reimbursement for shared expenditures with the Gerhart Rural Fire District. The city had originally paid the full expenses and the account was adjusted after reimbursement was received. So last month was higher than this month because we credited back those expenses because we received funds from the Gerhart Rural Fire District. There was also a quarterly payment made in 10-13-60. For our volunteer firefighter expenses to the Gerhart Rural Fire Department, which is a quarterly payment. The court clerk has a scheduled professional development, and the annual training conference had been charged to account 10-15-61. I made a budgeted transfer from Fund 25 Water Improvement to Fund 71 Water Reserve. Fund 25 was originally established to show the financial transactions for the construction of the water treatment facility. And because that facility is complete, the city can transfer any remaining revenue to the Water Reserve Fund. There is a resolution 984 that we'll talk about later in the meeting. And the transfer of the funds was approved by the Budget Committee during the budget process last year. And finally, there was a large council approved expenditure in Fund 71, the Water Reserve expenditures. And this was to pay for the water treatment filters. It was a sole procurement that had come to the council for a request. I would also like to note that there are several individual accounts significantly over in Fund 30, the water operating account, in the materials and service category. We are aware of these overages and just try and remember that when budgeting, one doesn't always know where the expenditures are going to happen. And at this point, it appears there are going to be adequate allocations in this category to support those individual overages. In the check detail 1 report, be aware of the following things this month. In the column, in the name column, the word electronic is used. And if you're wondering what that means, it is a way that we can document transactions in QuickBooks, which is our financial software. compared to our water account. So our water account has one software, our QuickBooks has one software. And this month, the transactions, we had to pay back an electronic payments for credit cards for overpayments. So people had overpaid. And with some transactions, we can pay them back electronically. So we were able to do that on the software side. So we had to account for it in QuickBooks. So that's what those are. In the report, there are also transactions with the zero paid amount. So if you flip through there, can't remember which page they're on. There are checks written that had to be voided for one reason or another. And so the check still has to be documented and we still have to keep a record and we still have journal entries, but it'll appear as a $0 amount. In other financial news, the city has 2 active formal requests for proposals or RFPs out right now. One is for the mandatory state required water rates compliance and reporting service, and the other is for our building official. We currently have an interim. We haven't filled that position. We have had the building official inspector RFP open twice in the past and have yet to be able to fill it permanently. Both are open until April 14th. Recommendations for awards will be brought to the council for them to look at. And the RFPs were posted in the League of Oregon Cities, in the Daily Journal of Commerce, and in the Daily Astorian. And we also went out to the email, the Oregon Water Reserve Department for the water rights compliance RFP. As a reminder, our first budget committee meeting will be Tuesday, April 18th at 6 p.m. It will be when the committee and the public hear the budget message and receive the budget document. This is different for Gerhart. In the past, the budget had been released earlier and we only had one meeting. We will release it on the night of the first budget committee meeting. There will be no public hearing on that meeting. We're just going to get the budget, hear the budget, digest the budget, then we are going to reconvene on Thursday, May 4th, and public hearing will be held there. So the budget committee will have a couple weeks and citizens will have a couple weeks to look over the budget. And if they have questions, then come back and ask the Thursday, May 4th meeting.
Any questions, anybody? Thank you so much. Okay, Chad, city administrator report.
Well, we've got the city attorney first, if you wanted to go
Here.
first. You guys miss me so much.
Person I'm used to.
Now that I'm not on the computer.
You look a lot taller.
It looks like I have a full head of hair on Zoom. That's the difference. Not to wear a hat again. Okay, well, I have a report. Most people are probably aware that a lawsuit was filed against the city and certain individuals by Attorney Mitch Kogan. When he had first talked about doing that in the fall, I had expressed my opinion that I thought it was what he was talking about was squarely covered under what's referred to as anti-SLAPP statute, that SLAPP being strategic lawsuits against public process. He ended up filing the case. We tendered it to insurance, which is what we always do. Counsel was assigned. He agreed with, he independently came to the same analysis and result that I did, which was this was a anti-SLAPP case. He provided the notice that's required under the statutes, at which point that complaint was withdrawn. Really, the magic of the anti-SLAPP statute is that the winner gets their attorney's fees by right. So it's not one where a judge can award attorney's fees or not. Winner gets the attorney's fees. That is kind of that, I think. You know, I have really felt for a while, I can't say exactly how long, that there was a lot of misinformation happening here in ways that were quite concerning to me. And I would hope going forward, we don't continue having that problem. And the reason is because if we're dealing with non-issues, it negatively impacts our ability to deal with real issues. And we have some real issues that I need to deal with. And our staff needs to deal with, and our council needs to deal with. And if we're having to deal with what I'll like the land to make believe to me, though very angry, then it really negatively impacts our ability to deal with everything else. And one of the things that we need to update are our police policies. For the last 2 years, Chad and I have really wanted to update those in ways to help our police and others manage public health and safety issues specifically related to camping and things of that nature. There are things we are allowed to do under state law that I think have worked in other jurisdictions. But ultimately, neither one of us nor the council has the ability to update those police procedures. It really has to be done by the police chief or the officer in charge. And the great thing is I've had some really positive conversations with our sergeant. And I think those policies are going to be updated, and we're going to make sure that he has the resources that he needs in order to feel fully comfortable and understand what we can and can't do. Because that's really important too. We want to take care of our officers. It makes it easier to recruit and retain. We need to look at some ordinances too, specifically our camping ordinance, which was adopted during the time where we were having some short-term rental issues. I have read all the cases, and I actually co-taught a continuing legal education course with the then head of the ACLU related to some of these camping issues. We do have a new case that came out in September of 2022. Unfortunately, we have a former law enforcement officer that keeps track of all these things too, so that's helpful for me. And that case is involved the Johnson v. City of Grants Pass. And it really is a textbook example of what not to do. And I when I first read it, I kind of read it with disbelief. And then it went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to affirm the result. It has provided some clarity to the Martin v. Boise case that I think people have heard about or familiar with. That opinion was not very clear on a lot of things. And so this provides us with some more information on what we can and can't do, which is good. The way that we're going to approach this, I hope, is the way we're going to approach everything, which is with health and safety. And that's the health and safety of folks that are living here, folks that are passing through, everyone. We have an example of why, how an activity can become dangerous that happened today, and that there was a fire. And one of the things about the Grants Pass case that as an attorney reading it made me most uncomfortable is that none of what they did was grounded in any sort of record of this is why we're doing this or this is why we're doing that. And that means that a judge reading it, you know, in the, as Councilor Gould said, their record was unreal. But we now know, because of what happened today, that we need to prohibit space heaters because space heaters can cause fires, and we don't have to guess about that. We have an actual example of that happening. And so it's all of those things that will allow us to ground what we do in health and safety and make it, I hope that we have a record that's so good that people that are looking at it will know that they don't want to sue. And that if they do bring an action, then we're going to prevail because we've grounded everything in health and safety. And I think that we are, I know that we are working with Chad Jacobs, who has worked with Seaside and Cannon Beach and Astoria, and I think Warrenton, I think everywhere on theirs. Our goal is not just to have some uniformity in the county, but also if all of our jurisdictions are together and fully informed of what they can and can't do, it will allow us to kind of lobby and to share the experience here on the Northern Oregon coast with the legislature and maybe access some funds that are very needed. So I think that that is probably what we're going to be spending some time on, and we are going to get that stuff done before July 1st. Because we need to. And we're going to make sure our folks have the tools that they need so that they can do their jobs. And also the general public understands what's happening to the extent that we can. That's my hope. And what we'll be working on, there's some other things that were mentioned, such as water. I spoke with Peter Moore, who's yeah, I think he's been practicing a couple years longer than me. So 22, 23 years, very, very experienced water lawyer who has done work, Oregon, Washington, California, to better understand what our rights are and to make sure that that our allocation is correct. There's been some thought that it's not. We don't have the data to demonstrate that we should be able to draw more. And this is one of those issues that we've kicked out the can down the road, and now we really need to address it. And so I think that's something that we'll see, probably less exciting than some of the other stuff. And then the other thing that I would just mention to put on people's radar, Oregon property taxes go up 3% a year. Traditionally, we've had low inflation, so that's been adequate. Now we're seeing higher inflation. And so that's something that we're going to need to look at as far as city revenue, things of that nature. And there are a variety of ways that cities can do things, whether it's new construction, system development charges, annexations of areas that are already built that might want to join the city. That's another source potentially of property tax revenue if those people want to do that. So those are all conversations that we're going to be having. And then the other one that I would like to have is we recently updated, it was during COVID. I remember because I drove down and we were in the fire station, our downtown code. And I'm hoping to get a better idea of council goals around the downtown and the vibrant downtown that people want or don't want, whatever people want is the right answer. Because I've been contacted by some folks that people are saying, well, what did they want in Gerhart? What do people want? And I said, my crystal ball in Gerhart ain't great. And so I'm frequently wrong. So why don't we listen to the people and hear what they want, and then ultimately council will decide, and hopefully that will inform people that have projects they might want to pursue. Because what I've been told is they don't want to propose a project that the community doesn't want, and then deal with the fallout from that. They'd rather ask permission than beg forgiveness. So seems like a prudent approach to me. So hopefully we can have that conversation in the next month or so. Did I miss anything, Chad?
No, sir.
I'm not used to sitting on this side of the room. I usually sit there. It's a little disorienting.
Yeah,
A little practice should be good.
we won't let you.
Thank you. Okay, Chad, now's your report.
Thank you very much. So yeah, today's been a big day for a lot of us here at City Hall to kind of work through some of these issues that we have. But some good news to report is that we really got a chance to meet a lot of people in the community that are here to help. We got a chance to work with the Red Cross today. We got a chance to work with the Class of Behavioral Health. We got a chance to work with some other organizations too. They all came down today to try to work with these folks. And just so you know, for the past month, we've been working with these folks to try to find out what they need so that we can get that to them, so that we can move forward, they can move forward with their lives. I think that nobody is gonna, the number one issue is there is money out there for people. There is money available for rent. There is, I even had a gentleman today come up and say that they would give a pretty significant sum of money if somebody could find an apartment for these folks. We today as staff and other times as well have called around and tried to find these apartments. They don't exist. There is no housing for people. And this is one of the major issues that we're dealing with in Oregon. We have all these areas and these people that want to help, but no place to put them. And in my conversations with all these organizations today, yes, there's other items such as, there's addiction issues, there's mental issues. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but there's all these issues that the rest of us do experience as well. But there's just no place to put them. So keep your ear out. If you have a place that may work, let us know, because we're making connections to help these people. We have had some positive movement. We're getting some people today, some things that they need. And I hope one of the vehicles have left as of this evening. So we'll see how that goes. There might be some issues with that, but that's what's happening. So along with our ordinances, along with the team that we have in the city council and these people that are helping us, we're going to get there. It's just going to take some time because of the constraints that we're under. Police chief recruitment is going fairly well. I think we've got about 6 applications in, and most of them are qualified. So our GMP, the recruitment organization, has been doing interviews with these folks just to kind of get a feel for what they are. The professionals are good at this, and the guy that's handling this is the retired police chief. And so we'll start getting into scheduling some of these interviews here soon. And the Clatsop County Sheriff's Department, with the agreement that we signed with them, you should already see them around town. And they were very helpful today as well in helping us do what we needed to do. And I'm looking forward to get to knowing this group as well. Who knows what the future might bring, but I'm very pleased with the Sheriff's Department and the effort they put in, and the Seaside Police Department. We're well covered in Gearhart. These people on the outlying areas care about this town and they want to help as well. So I think that we're going to be in good shape for a period of time, and I'm anxious to get us a new chief. The police officer recruitment, Sergeant's been working on this for some time. We've got some good possible recruits. We're going to be entering into interviews on which day?
And the 19th or the 26th.
I think we're shooting for the 19th. We're shooting for the 19th. That'll be an executive session where we can get together and interview these police officers, excuse me. And so we're excited about that as well. And so we'll be able to maybe fill up some of those vehicles that are out there. The park, I'm really impressed with the amount of kids that are down there. I had a little child and I think grandmother come in yesterday, and the kid just kept going up. I get a chance to hear all the positive things in there, but with the community, I just want you to know that people are really, really happy with that. We gotta watch out for the parking on A Street. The city or the planning commission, when we went for the conditional use permit, to lessen the impact on the people that live on A Street with parking and things like that, it was decided that the one parking space that we would have there would be ADA. We just got that paved. It doesn't look like it's ADA right now, but it will. And so we're going to put up a split rail fence so people don't continue to park on the grass for the Trails and Arts Association as well. So I just ask that we park up on the top parts or the side streets, but not necessarily back there, because there really is no room for this. And under the direction of Mayor Smith, we're going to start looking at some ideas for making a better approach into that park, so people can park over here and easily get down and not have to worry about slipping down that hill. That's got some other things, but not as important as those. So that's my report for now.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is visitors, but we have no scheduled visitors. So we're,
Do you have a sign sheet?
yes, I do. I have a sign up sheet. So we're going to move on to public communication. And I must read this. Oral public comment. Anybody wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder no later than 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. In-person attendees. I'm sorry, I thought you were mentioning me. 4 p.m. 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. And I do have the sign-up sheet. And first, when you're called on, please give your name and your address. Beth Cameron.
I believe Beth is online, so we might need to give her a moment here.
Beth Cameron, 2906 Pine Court. Wasn't totally sure I was going to say anything tonight, but because Peter brought up the defamation suit, I guess that means I have to. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that yes, the Zimmermans and I dropped our lawsuit against the city. We filed the suit because we were defamed. It was important for us to stand up to the intimidation, harassment, and made-up accusations levied against us. It was never about money. Rather, it was about putting an end to the targeting behaviors that had become commonplace. Since the suit was filed, though, the city council has changed a lot. 2 of the people named in the suit are no longer part of city leadership, and the tone of the council meetings has become a lot more professional, and for this, I'm grateful. These changes, along with the current crisis Gerhardt faces, made me step back and reevaluate what was best for the whole of Gerhardt. My hope is that in dropping the suit, the city council and taxpayers of Gerhardt will come together to solve the situation that's happening in a constructive way. We all get to make a choice every single day to be good humans, to support each other, to have open, respectful dialogue, and most importantly, to protect and preserve Gerhardt. In a nutshell, that's most of what I wanted to say. If anybody has any questions about the lawsuit and why we did what we did, why we dropped the suit, please seek out either the Zimmermans or myself, and we'll be happy to share that our reasoning with you. That being said, I am the grandma whose 6-year-old grandson came to City Hall yesterday to thank everybody for the park. And again, today, thank God it was raining, or I'd have been sitting in the wrong parking space again while he played on the toys. But yes, thank you for the park. It's going to be amazing this summer when we have tourists, and I appreciate the city putting it in, so now I don't have to put something in my backyard. Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't recognize you, Beth.
That's okay. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, in a nutshell, that's what I had for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Next, Mr. Bob Maury.
Stand down here. First of all, Beth, thank you very much for your comments and the idea of us working together. I think it's the right message, and I want to say the same thing to you, Dana. Thank you for your comments.
And we need your address, please.
My address is 271 D Street, Gerhardt.
Thank you.
I'm here and wanted to just thank everybody on the council and on the staff for the work you're putting in. Spoke with Chad yesterday, got information on Chad Jacobs, touched base with my land use council, who also does work as a city attorney. She has a good working relationship with Chad. Thought it was a very good choice to be working on our ordinances that you're working on. And that was very reassuring to me. We fenced 2.5 years ago to a little bit of disdain in this community, but it was because exactly of what's going on across the street. We had drug deals going on behind the school when we took it over. It was a drug spot, and it was fenced for a reason. And following up on your tree ordinance, we're going to be planting about 300 trees over the next month and a half or so to help screen in and provide greenery in the area. But again, I just want to thank each of you for the work you're doing and what we can do to help. We're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. Okay. Penny, is it stable?
Right here.
Oh, hi, Penny.
Hi. Penny Sable, 1149 North Cottage. First of all, thank you for increasing the police coverage. I feel a lot better about that. Thank you. And I'm sure Ian does too. So I'm here to talk about, I've changed my thing a little bit here. A group of us met a lovely man. His name is Alan Evans. He is the founder of Helping Hands. He was homeless at one point himself. He is a magnetic personality. And he has invited the group of us, a group from Gerhard, council people, if they want to come, whoever wants to come. He has some ideas. He says we need a plan. We need to get rid of the drug dealers in that little thing. And he says they'll scamper once we get some control on it. This is what he does. He is brilliant at it. And so we're having a meeting Friday. He's at the Helping Hands facility, and that's in the same building Providence PT is in, up on 101. It's going to be at 11:30 in the morning. And we would love to have people come to talk to him. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
What's the date?
Oh, Friday, 11:30.
It's coming Friday, right?
Yeah, right.
And
Okay.
and Penny, you said that was at the, where was the location again?
Helping Hands, they have a
Okay, at that office.
facility, yeah, right here in Gerhard. And Alan is a resident of Gerhard. So he's really a wonderful person, a wonderful addition to Clatsop County. So.
Thank you. Judd Todd.
My name is Chuck Todd. I have a house at 313 Needed in Gerhard. Before all of you people, other than Charter City Council members, I used to come to a lot of the meetings and have a lot to say. I stopped coming with COVID and haven't missed much. First of all, I'm happy to hear that you're at least giving 2 weeks now between the time the budget's issued and there's a vote on the budget. It's in my opinion, that the budget committee has been a rubber stamp for the budget all these years. I've read these budgets, they're complex, they're hard to understand, hard to track until you figure it all out. I also have an objection to the budget committee composition. We have a planning committee here, and we allow people that are not voters or full-time residents of Gerhard on that. Many years I've mentioned it to Chad, and I mentioned it to Gary Smith and to the former members of this body, that we should not be restricting the budget committee to just people that vote here. I think you should visit that ordinance and allow letters on it. You might get a better take on it. Second of all, I think we should investigate term limits. I propose that you consider 6 years and then 1 term off before people run again for city council or mayor. They become entrenched, things slow down, you get group thing, 5-0 vote, 5-0 vote, 5-0 vote. It just doesn't work good, and it doesn't work too well. I could comment on a couple of things I heard from others that I don't think are on the agenda, so I think I can speak on them. One, you're talking about affordable housing on the right hand. On the left hand, I hear somebody say, Peter, that, okay, you've got a 3% cap on tax increases. But we could work on other things, maybe building permits. Well, how does that work in affordable housing? All these years, we have 1% and 2% inflation. We have no problem raising our budget 3% a year and spending. Maybe it's time to tighten up a little bit going forward, rather than just find new revenue, new ways. Another thing that bothered me, every time I hear somebody in a position of governmental authority start speaking about what to say and what not to say. I heard the 4th, 8th, and 14th amendments mentioned in section 1983. I didn't hear the First Amendment issue, freedom of speech. Anytime a government agent on a government platform starts talking about what we should and shouldn't say, they're starting to press up against a chilling effect on free speech. Free speech is not just an amendment, it's the First Amendment. That isn't saying that I believe they should speak uncivilly or badly about other people. But I think they should have a right to say what they think or what they observe about the conduct. Because conduct is a big problem. For 30 years, we had a house in Gerhart. Until early this year, we never locked it. 24/7, 365 days a year. Never had an issue. Warned and warned. Now we lock it. To our detriment, we leave on lights at night, shining on the street, because the neighbors feel unsafe. Well, I don't think it's coming from current residents. So, but I really think we've got to be very careful when the statements of private citizens are asked to be treated as if they were the statements of government officials in their governmental capacity. They're entirely different. I don't think you're going to find a court in this land that's going to equate the two. Maybe some attorney from one of the other big cities, Portland or Seattle or California, is going to come up and try and say it, but I don't think it's going to work. Speaking of whatever you want to call people, the homeless, the unhoused, whatever. I have a house in Seattle. We're not as bad as Portland, but Seattle is cleaning up, and it's cleaning up by enforcement. They're not throwing them all in jail. Only 1/3 of the homeless in Seattle are from Seattle. 1/3 are probably from outside the state of Washington, and the other 1/3 are from surrounding counties, which the technique is to dump them on the big city that spends $160 per home per capita on homeless each year. Well, I know he has the right idea. Conduct. But those are my comments. They're usually somewhat welcome. People are glad to see me leave too. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Sarah Mortensen?
Yes, I'm Sarah Martinson, and my address is 919 Some Avenue. I've never been one of these, so I thought it was more like a questions. And I guess my biggest one was sort of wondering if we had, could know any sort of specific steps that are happening with the unhoused and long-term solutions to that also. My immediate concern is now, but then also, what are we doing after that hopefully gets resolved? Because I think too, I have 3 boys, and the park I do love, but they ride their bikes around, and I have felt much more nervous about it, and sort of like what is going to be there, and there are definite concerns, and I just feel like not a ton of things happening, but it's probably because we just don't see it. So I guess my question is if I could know more specifics, but maybe that's not possible. I don't know. Anyway. Is it okay if I answer?
Do you want me to do it? I can do it. I'm happy to answer. So when our police procedures have been amended, we will be able to provide a 72-hour notice to folks. And then do a cleanup, frankly. And our hope would be that 72 hours is sufficient time for them to take their things. We want to, there's some garbage and other health and public safety concerns that I'm very concerned about. There are cities that have had rat infestations and other things. I don't know if we're there yet, but we don't know, because you won't know until you've cleaned it up. Again, this is purely health and safety things. We're not trying to penalize anybody at all for their status, whether they're housed or unhoused, and I think that after that first one happens, we'll have a better idea of the scope. There are time, place, and manner restrictions, reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions that we can do. We cannot do, it could be certain zones. It could be certain times. There are a lot of things. What we cannot do is criminalize sleeping. What we know, which we would never do. What we know from the Johnson case is that there have to be. They tried to prohibit sleeping bags, and they tried to prohibit a lot of things. And frankly, it's cold, and we want these people to be safe. That's what I want. I want people to be safe. And that's why I was so concerned with what happened today, because there was a fire, and obviously someone could have lost their life very easily. Our fire department had reacted so quickly, you know, those trailers that are adjacent to it, and I went down and looked at everything today. They could have combusted, and people could have lost their lives, and that's what we want to avoid. You know, in the city of Portland, and again, it was pre-pandemic that I taught that continuing legal education course. I think it was 2018. I said, we have a uniform building code in the state to keep people safe. It's not to make it harder for builders to do their job. It's to make sure that people are safe. And if people are building a structure out of wood that's very combustible, the odds of them dying much higher. The people that are using blue tarps and that looks like a yurt, and then they have a heater in there, that's not safe. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for anyone. I also am concerned too that if we would allow structures like that, and then try and enforce our uniform building code, it could open us up to a selective enforcement, because we're forcing people that own their land to do things that we're not forcing people that don't own the land where the structure is located to do. That's a big concern of mine, but the most important concern is the health and safety of everybody, so that everybody feels safe. And you know, what I've learned about Gerhard is that we need to have that conversation. There are ways that we can have that conversation that can be really helpful. I don't want to chill anyone's First Amendment rights at all. I think that people should be able to express what they want, but there are ways that they can express that to make my life easier, and ways that they can express that make my life harder. And if I think it's sufficiently hard, I might say we need to take the time out, and we need to start over again, because I can't have this record. And I would just point to our short-term rental is kind of the template. We got sued by 2 lawyers. We went to LUBA, 7 errors or omissions, because all of our stuff was built around health and safety. And again, real world examples such as the fire, that tragic fire in the house where the windows were nailed shut. That's why we won that case on all 7 errors or omissions. So when we're looking at stuff like this, we're going to be learning from what we've seen. So like no space heaters, we now know that's dangerous. We can prove it. I'm going to ask that that be put in the record. And we're going to look at all of those things of how can people safely sleep without us violating their rights, but also ensuring that they wake up in the morning and are still alive. And you know, we can't do it if someone has a substance use problem and they OD, that might be beyond our control. But whether their structure catches on fire is something we can't control. And so that's in my mind what we need to do. And that's a record that I hope that we'll be able to build. And the other good news is, you know, we have a very strong record of empathy and compassion towards these people in Gerhard. I mean, our police chief used to buy meals, and you know, that is the kind of evidence that I want to point to. That history and culture of compassion and empathy, and keep our lens that we look at everything through as one of being health and public safety. So if we continue down that course, I think that we can arrive at a result that meets people's needs. Maybe not every need, maybe not everyone happy, because no one ever is, but we can look back a year later or 2 years later when, like the short-term rentals, some of the strongest opponents of that came back later and said, and this was big of these people to say, I was wrong. I'm not saying the city got it perfect, but that at the end of the day, people viewed it as working. And I would hope this would be the exact same thing.
And just to further answer your question, one of the things, and this is going to be a surprise to people when we're going through this process, is that we are, stop me if I'm wrong, we're required to have time, place, and manner. That requirement means that we have to have a place. Just moving people out and not having a time that they can come back and sleep is really not possible for Gearhart. And what some of the other communities have done is they have found places where they have encampments. So part of their time, place, and manner is like, you can't be on the street. You can't be here at this time, but you can be over there because we've set you up with some things that you need, some bathrooms, place to sleep, those sorts of things. Seaside has that. They're struggling with it. It's not an easy thing. Gearhart does not have a plan to set aside some sort of an encampment. So that's one of the pitfalls that we keep falling into when we're trying to do things down there, is we don't have a place to put them. And that's a requirement. So you'll see in this ordinance that's coming up that the city may have to say, all right,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna have hours when people can sleep, and it's going to be in certain zones, like not abutting a residential zone. We'll get to it. And I think that we're gonna look at best practices, and again, our goal is so that people will safely sleep. And then go about their day, whether it's here in Gearhart or somewhere else. But we're not going to do anything that would prohibit sleeping. And we know from the Johnson case that, and frankly, it wouldn't be right to say someone can't have a blanket or someone can't have a pillow. Of course they need that. But we can't have them having space heaters now, we know that too. So, it's just gonna be navigating that very narrow pathway so that our ordinance is better than everyone else's, and then we'll be the last city that we get sued. Because why would you sue a city with a great ordinance?
And again, I'd like to reiterate that I am happy to have conversations with anybody. I'm not saying do not exercise your First Amendment rights. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's have productive conversations that will not harm our efforts in this or be used against us. I'm not afraid of getting sued by the ACLU. I think if I get sued one more time, I might get a toaster or something. I'm afraid of losing a lawsuit to the ACLU, and that's what I want to do, is make sure that whatever we do, no matter what we do, even if it's completely legal, somebody is going to challenge it. I'm telling you right now, we will get complaints about whatever we do, no matter how good it seems to us, how brilliant, we will get challenged on it. I'm okay with that, as long as I'm confident that our actions are defensible. Now, what happens commonly in a lawsuit is that you might have the best of intentions, but you could spend 2 weeks on the stand in the hot seat, as I like to call it, explaining how all these comments you were not motivated by all of these comments to just make people move, because that will hurt us. So let's have productive conversations. Let's not just yell because we're frustrated. I will answer your questions. I will let you talk to me. I will come meet with you. I've done it before and I will continue to do it. I'm just saying, please, let's have productive conversations and not just, and let's be very careful about what we say. Please help us. That's the best thing that you can do, is help us. Thanks.
Thank you. So does Christie show anybody waiting to speak online?
Ms. Christie, do you see any hands? I don't see any here on my screen. I think we're clear. Is there anybody else that wanted to be a visitor that is online?
That's the question.
Hold on just a minute. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's from there. Or
Why is it gonna take until July to get this ordinance set? By July, so much more is gonna be happening.
that's when we have to have it done. We intend to have it done before that.
Oh, thank you. We'll serve coffee, we'll do anything.
Double mocha.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you.
No gifts of more than $50.
Oh. Never mind, I can't be bribed.
Okay. All right, so moving on. So ordinances, so we've got some ordinances before us. The first one is ordinance 937. Do you have any comment from the council?
We forgot to acknowledge first.
I've done them all.
Oh,
Right. I don't have any.
two that were in today.
I have the one about the Deerheart Health and Wildlife. And this, oh, let me, thank you.
Just have to acknowledge them.
Thank you. I made a mistake. Okay, we have a thank you from the chief of police. Well, he'll always be the chief to me, but he is the ex, thank you. Who's thanking the citizens and Deerheart County or Deerheart City. And that although he's not going to be wearing a uniform after today, he will continue to support law enforcement in our area. Thank you. Then we have some written letters about the wildlife, just, we have a lot of it. And, well, basically. And then a thank you letter for this, for Maureen and Jim Mastriantonio for thanking us to help get the street light installed on North Cottage Avenue and Meadow Lane. And then also a letter from Mr. Zimmerman suggesting ways to alleviate the homeless crisis. Do I need to repeat?
That wasn't me, that was somebody in the here. We just passed that on to council for your information.
Thank you. I just looked at the
Yeah.
very last, but your name was on it, Mr. Zimmerman. All right, thank you. Okay, do I need to do anything more with that?
There were some late correspondence to their.
She got this Zimmerman, that's that one.
Yeah.
And then this is Papadopoulos.
Oh,
Show me that one.
I'm trying to find it right now. I set it aside because I was going to reply to it, but she had the concerns about the trees.
Oh, yeah,
Where are they gonna go? How are
Right.
they gonna water them?
yes. And Danny, you said you will answer that one.
I will answer. that.
Thank you. Any more that I missed?
Those are the two that were.
Yeah, okay, I did. Thank you. Okay, now we're on to ordinances. So does anybody or any counselor have any comments or questions about ordinance 937, which is an ordinance amending the rules and order of business for the meetings of the city council? Preston or Dana?
I see where the initial one that we had dated 3/1. Where the section E, the public comment oral from the public, I see that was changed. Is that the only change in that?
I believe so, yes, and
Yeah.
these were based on comments that we received during the last meeting, during the meeting before the last one, yes.
Right, okay.
All right. So do I hear a motion to approve ordinance 937 by reading once by title only?
I move that we approve the ordinance 937 as it's written by title only.
Thank you.
I will second the motion to approve ordinance 937, reading once by title only.
So Chad, do I read by title only or do you?
You're welcome to if you like, but I'd be happy to help.
Thank you. I'll defer to you.
And so did we get I'll read it and then we can go. Yes, so it's been first and second. So this is ordinance resolution number 937, an ordinance amending rules and order of business for meetings of the city council. That's it.
Now do I
They asked for
approval? Do I hear, oh wait. So I'll approve, say, yay.
Okay.
Anyone disagree, say nay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Next, we need a resolution authorizing Earmark to apply for the OPRD LGGP Small Rehabilitation Grant. So have we all read that and are we all familiar? Do we have any questions or do we have any comments?
Chad, I think did you have more to add on that, or?
I do. Madam President, Council, Mayor, been working with Wally Gamer. How can you forget that name? It's been a long day. So Wally's been working on this. He's been trying very hard to get additional courts. Things came up where people were concerned about it and they wanted to have more information. So what the council directed the city staff to do is to move forward with this grant for refinishing the courts as it is, to see if we can get that. If we do, and then later in the date, the city decides to do some different lines for pickleball through a process through the planning commission, similar to the tree situation, then we can maybe make some adjustments to this grant before it's awarded or after it's awarded, if we are awarded this grant. So what we need to write this grant and to get it out is just a motion by the council to approve us going for the grant. And then we will do so. And then we will work through those other issues through the planning commission and the city council in the future.
Okay.
So it's just a motion.
Okay, so resolution 976 is the motion to have the city proceed with the application of the grant.
I'm sorry, it's a resolution that's on the back. That's what I was saying. Yes. So it would be that resolution.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So do I hear a motion to approve resolution 976?
At what point should I ask a question?
Oh, go right ahead.
Application. The grant that we would be applying for, what's the feasibility of, what do you think is, I guess, the possibility that it's gonna apply in a situation where we're not changing anything yet, we just are looking for resurfacing? Is that gonna be a waste of our time? Will the grant be applicable in this instance where we still have yet to figure out exactly what the pickleball court and the tennis court thing is going to, because I know our staff resources are really stretched right now. I don't want to waste our resources if it's not something you feel we're likely to win. But if we're likely to win, let's do it.
I think it's a stretch. It will take some time for staff to write these grants. They're very complicated these days to try to get all the information and things correct. It wasn't really written to refinish what we already have. The grant was more written to enhance. So I guess that's the best that I can answer that. I'm not sure. I do know that we don't have a lot of time and putting this together will take some work, but if directed, we can do that. So a lot of the information that we have is already there. We just need to put it together and make sure it's right.
This is specifically for rehabilitation. So it's rehabilitation of existing things. And the reason we need to have a conversation is because I'm seeing a lot of jurisdictions that are running into some issues with the noise associated with pickleball. And making sure that the neighboring property owners going from 2 courts or 3, however many we have, to 6 can generate a lot of additional noise. With that said, there are a lot of people that really enjoy playing pickleball, so there's some balancing of that. But the idea is this would, at the end of the day, maybe the community says, no, we want 1 dedicated tennis court and maybe we want this. But that way we don't have to go through that process prior to applying for this, which would delay us for a year because it's a May 1 date.
It's my understanding that, I mean, we need the grant in order to resurface, and when they get to resurface, they're gonna strip that You're gonna strip the core.
Or treat it. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a complete. strip.
Well, I mean, you go up there and you see there's all kinds of pop marks, water's getting in underneath. It's, excuse me, it's blistering. So unless I can cut that out, because it's an elastomeric.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact process, but I know the guy that we would likely have to do it, or we hope would do it, was the person who installed it. Those are some of the best courts around.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, so, yeah, I would rely on him, but I'm not sure of the process, for exactly how he does it.
Yeah, well,
So I guess my question was, are you comfortable that the grant that we would be applying for would be applicable to resurfacing? And that's the bar that we have to show a need in order to get the grant.
I'm not sure. Christie's had some conversations with the folks with the grant, and it was brought up that it's not exactly along the lines of what they would go for, but they did encourage us to go for it as well.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
And if we do get the grant, then the city has the finances to put in the 20%.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well, we'll make sure that we budget that in, yes.
okay. So I need to hear a motion to approve resolution 976.
I think we've got that. And we have a second?
No, we don't have a first or a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Okay, then. I'll find it for you. I'll give you a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve
There you go.
resolution 976.
Thank you, Preston.
Thank you.
And I will second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed? Okay, thank you. And then, so now we come to resolution 984, a resolution acknowledging budgeted transfer and authorizing closure of Fund 25 water improvement construction. So, would you explain this, Ms.
Sure.
Justine?
So in the budget, there is a fund, which was originally established when the general obligation bond was created for the original treatment plant. And when that construction was completed, and the purpose of that is so that taxpayers can have a clear accountability for the revenues and expenditures that are spent in building that new general obligation bond project. After that fund was over and all the money had been spent to complete the project, there was still a couple of $1,000s left. And it has been sitting in a fund each year, just accumulating very small amounts of interest, but there is no reason to keep that fund open anymore. That particular fund is in the water department. The water department is considered by the state as an enterprise or a proprietary fund, which is supposed to collect revenues in like a business. It's supposed to run itself at a profit or at least break even. So we would like to transfer, the budget committee approved the transfer that small amount of money, which I think is in here, $3,993.57 to transfer it from that Fund 25 to our Fund 71 Water Reserve Fund, which is for exactly the same purposes of maintaining our water treatment facility. So they approved that, but we also need to do a resolution that the city council acknowledges that we're going to make that transfer, and that we can eliminate that fund, which Oregon local budget law does allow us to do under ORS 294353. So we are just asking permission for this resolution so that we can move the funds and eliminate after the historical data, just eliminate that fund.
Okay. Do you have any comments or questions?
No.
This is just a housekeeping thing.
This is a housekeeping thing, but it is important. That was a bond that was voted on by the taxpayers. And technically it would sit there that project is complete until the council agrees that it can be. We've met the obligation of the title, the ballot, and now those funds can be moved.
So, do I hear a motion to provide resolution from us to acknowledge budgeted transfer and authorize the closure of Fund 25 to improvement construction?
I'll give you the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Dana.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. All in favor, say A. Aye, or A, or whatever.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion is passed. Okay, now we're on to my favorite part. Proclamations. There's no old business. Moving on. So, because I relish proclamations so much, Chad has agreed to speak to that. So Chad, why don't you take it?
Hard to say no to council, yes. All right, so we have a sexual awareness action month proclamation. Sexual awareness month proclamation, April 2023, whereas sexual assault affects Oregonians every day, whether as a victim or a survivor, as a family member, friend, partner, neighbor, employer, or co-worker of the survivor. And whereas Oregonians of all gender identities experience sexual violence, including an estimated 1 in 4 adult women who have been the victim of rape, and 1 in 5 men who have experienced sexual violence in their lifetime. And whereas 1 in 10 Clatsop County middle and high school students report inappropriate sexual contact by an adult before they turn 18. And whereas certain populations in Oregon experience much higher rates of sexual violence due to systematic oppression and inequality. And whereas out of the 1,000 sexual assaults, only 25 perpetrators will face any legal repercussions for the assaults. And whereas sexual violence is preventable and all communities are strengthened by encouraging healthy nonviolent interactions, relationships, and social norms. And whereas every individual and communities in Oregon have a role to play to help eliminate sexual violence by working together to promote social change. Now, therefore, we city council members do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Sexual Awareness Month, Sexual Awareness Action Month.
Thank you. We have another proclamation.
Did you want to come up?
Child abuse.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So I have to move that we accept the proclamation. Is that how it works? Got it?
The consensus.
We have a consensus that we all agree to the proclamation as read.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, and another way we can do it is we can make a motion that I read this and that we approve it.
Okay, so before you read it, I must make a motion that you read it.
That's another way you can do it. Like that.
I like this way.
A motion that we read the proclamation, I get finished with it, we vote on it, we're good to go. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
All right. Child Abuse Prevention Month, April Proclamation 2023. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions require input and action from everyone. And whereas every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment, free from the dangers and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And whereas our children are the most valuable resource that we shall shape the future of Clatsop County, Oregon, and whereas child abuse can have a long-term physiological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas child abuse prevention succeeds through partnerships among parents, child welfare agencies, mental and physical health care providers, school, law enforcement agencies, faith-based organizations, businesses, and community members by fostering, loving, supportive, and violent-free homes. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families now, therefore, we council members do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Garrett.
So, do we all give our consent?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next on the list here is discussion. During the March meeting, there was concern from Councilor Gold over suggestions circulating throughout the community that the police department of Garrett dissolve and merge with a neighboring city. Councilor Gould has suggested that she would like to kick off this discussion.
Well, I think to be fair, I think I said my piece during that meeting, but it appeared that other counselors wanted to maybe have a discussion, which you can't do without it being on the agenda. So
I
we put it on the
understand.
agenda in case anybody else wanted to say anything today. So if anybody else would like to continue that conversation or discuss it, it's on the agenda and ready to go. I think just the Reader's Digest of my comments were that from our town hall meeting, it appeared that overall the group that showed up here were very supportive of continuing with our own police department. And I saw some positives to that. In law enforcement, there's something, in large departments, there's something called beat integrity, where you divide up a large city into smaller groups, and then you assign people to regularly stay in those beats. And if they come out of those beats, they get in trouble. I literally used to have a sergeant who said, that doesn't sound like beat 4 if I made a traffic stop outside of my beat, because they want you in your area, getting to know the people in your area, getting to know the good citizens, getting to know who are committing crimes. And there's something very valuable in having somebody assigned to Gerhardt and only Gerhardt. And so I like that. My worry before was that we would not get any viable candidates. I was wrong. It's not the first time, it won't be the last time, but we appear to have some good viable candidates. Also, I have subsequently done some research into what local agencies surrounding us that we might contract with are paying. And I like what we're paying versus what they're paying. So therefore, and then the other thing, I've been told that although our charter does not say we have to have a police chief, he is listed in the charter, and I, for one, am just very uncomfortable about interpreting the charter in that way without public input. So that would have to be something I feel would need to go to a public vote. Feel free to disagree with me or prove me wrong if you'd like, but those were my comments, and I feel comfortable having said those.
My comment is that at the town hall that we had regarding the police chief selection, our citizens really like our police department. They're really proud of it, and they're proud of what it does. And I just would hate to see that disappear. I mean, it's something that our community has pride in, so that's my comment. So do you have anything you want to add?
I'm gonna wait and see how this whole thing shakes out.
Carrie, do you
I
have
mean,
anything?
I'm perfectly happy with Ian over here.
Carrie, do you
Oh,
have any
no, I've
comment?
been very happy and very proud of our police force all the years I've lived here, and I want to see it continue. I would fight anyone over the fact that they want to dissolve Gerhardt like that. It is unacceptable to me in any shape, fashion.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm comfortable. I just,
Okay.
I know that we had some public comment about it. I've seen some things online about why aren't we considering that? And I wanted people to know that we had considered it.
Sure.
And at this point, it doesn't seem like the best solution, but if things change, it might, it might be in the future.
All right. So I'm moving on to council concerns, and I'm going to start with Mayor Smith.
Well, thank you. I would like to say that I appreciated Dana's remarks at the very beginning of the meeting during council concerns and the council report. I'm sorry, this is council concerns. Anyway, that's about all I've got. I'm having so much fun with my grandkids that I'm really basically checked out of the city business.
Thank you. Preston, do you have any concerns?
Nope.
Miss Dana? Oh, well, that means it's time to adjourn. I asked him, he had none.
Do you have any concerns?
Oh, my concern is that this meeting is over. So, all in favor of adjourning the meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you, council.
Oh, you were as professional as I am.